Good evening and welcome to We the People. Does the resurrection of the Third Front mean that India's political future now belongs firmly to regional parties? Does Navin Patnaik's dramatic breakaway from the NDA prove to the national parties that they are now nothing without regional parties? But is all of this a good sign for Indian democracy and indeed India's future? We're debating whether regionalism has begun to trump nationalism on We the People this evening. I want to start with Jay Panda of the BJD, Navin Patnaik's party, sitting ironically next to Chandan Mitra, who was the man who had the NDA's mission to keep the BJD within the fold. That mission did not work. But Navin Patnaik has really kept his cards close to his chest so far, Jay. But is the BJD anything without either the Congress or the BJP?
Barkha, if you look at the last 15 years of coalition history in India, anybody that's doubted the relevance of regional parties, I think, has come to grief. What has happened is that Navin Patnaik's and the BJD's popularity has gone from strength to strength, and for a variety of reasons. And what happened in Odisha is that we ultimately found out that there was a very vast difference between our perception of where we were and the BJP's perception of where they were.
You fell out on seat sharing, right?
But seat sharing...
so you all say. Maybe you decided, politically to do this a long time ago. But the stated reason is a seat sharing difference.
No, that is the real reason. The fact is that we are a regional party and our raison d'etre is to form a government in Orissa and to protect Odisha's interest at the national level. Now, if there was a huge mismatch in understanding of who can win how much, the BJP was demanding far more seats than they could win. We were on a collision course because we simply could not agree on winnability despite enough evidence to the contrary.
And would you state this as an illustration of the arrogance of the BJP? Did the BJP take you for granted?
I think perhaps a misreading of the situation. I think what happened was, despite enough evidence, for example, we've had panchayat elections throughout the state. We've had recently urban elections throughout the state where there was no alliance. And the BJD on its own ended up winning more than 2/3 of the seats in most of those areas. The fact is, the local state unit of the BJP refused to acknowledge this.
So, I get what you're saying. Chandan, was the BJP in denial in Orissa? Are national parties still living in the era when the Congress was the grand old party of India?
Well, I can't
I get Jayanti of the Congress, but I'm talking about a cultural value, the way of seeing politics.
No, I don't think so. You see, that's the reason why I think BJP has been very successful in keeping its allies with it for a long, long time. The BJD was a very unexpected...
Fewer allies today in the NDA than during Mr. Vajpayee's time.
Fewer, but, more committed. You have differences from time to time.
What do you call the BJD's commitment?
Yeah, that's why it's such a shock. That's why it was so unexpected. And in any case, you see, even Jay will testify that it was not that the BJP was inflexible. We are ready to talk. We didn't agree.
He's saying
no. We didn't agree with his perception of how strong they were.
Yeah.
But we were talking. And therefore, the end came somewhat abruptly, although we'd been hearing from people, including Jay, that the alliance was not doing too well and could break. Unfortunately, an inflated notion of their own popularity, because panchayats don't decide margins.
Funny. You're saying you're not the guys with the inflated notions of their own
they are.
They are.
While if I may just complete.
Yes.
You see, in Delhi, you had municipal corporation elections, and the BJP swept, got more than 2/3 majority, came a cropper in the assembly just a year later.
Yeah. Jay, you were sort of saying no while Chandan was speaking. He's basically saying, you overreached yourselves. Basically.
No, not at all, not at all. I think Navin Patnaik, if anything, is rather cautious. And he tried very hard to work out a middle ground. But whatever little flexibility that the BJP might have had was very, very far from what we were able to come up with. And so there was no question of any...
You're seeing this as really a collision. It's interesting because both of you are actually accusing each other of exactly the same thing. But Jayanti Natarajan, in a different way, we're seeing this play out in the UPA as well, where your allies are saying to you, why don't you want a national, pre-poll alliance? Every day, another constituent of the UPA declares itself to be a prime ministerial candidate. The Congress SP talks have broken down in Uttar Pradesh. Is the Congress also living in some sort of archaic notion of its own ability to win seats across India?